It's late. The room is dark. Your body is tired and some part of you knows it, but your thumb keeps moving. You're not really reading anymore. The posts blur into each other, one bleeding into the next. A river of faces and jokes and outrage you'll have forgotten by morning. You are not enjoying this. And still, you cannot stop. You might think this is about willpower, a small weakness, something a little broken in you. But the real answer is far stranger. Because the reason you can't stop scrolling has almost nothing to do with the glass rectangle in your hand. It was written into you long before screens existed, long before electricity, before cities, before farming, before language as you'd recognize it. To understand why you're still awake, you have to go back, way back, to a time when your ancestors were hungry and the only thing standing between them and death was the ability to keep searching. Picture that world for a second. There are no shops, no fridge, no guaranteed meal waiting at the end of the day. There is only the land, and whatever the land is hiding, a handful of berries in one bush, a root buried somewhere in the dirt, a nest of eggs, if you're lucky, if you look. Food didn't come to your ancestors. Your ancestors went to the food, and the food was never in the same place twice. This is the world your brain was actually built for. Not this one, that one. So what kind of mind survives in a world like that? Not the calm one, not the one that sits still and waits. The mind that survived was the restless one, the one that felt a pull to check the next bush, and the one after that, even when the last three came up empty. That pull has a name, and it lives inside a single chemical. You've probably heard of dopamine, and you've probably heard it called the pleasure chemical. Almost everything you've heard about it is wrong. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz set out to watch dopamine in action. He measured it in the brains of monkeys as they received small rewards, little squirts of juice. He expected the dopamine to spike at the moment of pleasure, the instant the juice arrived. It didn't. The dopamine fired earlier. It fired at the signal that juice might be coming. And here is the part that changed everything we understood about desire. When the reward was certain, the dopamine faded. When the reward was uncertain, the dopamine surged. Read that again. Your brain doesn't light up for the reward. It lights up for the maybe. Dopamine, it turned out, was never about pleasure. It's about wanting, seeking, the engine of what's next. It's the voltage that drove your ancestor to check one more bush when their stomach was empty and the sun was going down. It rewards the search itself, not the finding. And it burns hottest in exactly one condition, not knowing. Do you see where this is going yet? Decades before Schultz, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner stumbled onto the same buried truth from the opposite direction. Skinner put animals in a box with a lever. Press the lever, get a pellet of food. Simple. Then he started changing the rules of when the pellet appeared. When the pellet came every single time, the animals pressed calmly and stopped when full. Predictable. Boring. But when Skinner made the reward unpredictable, when pressing the lever paid off only sometimes, and you could never tell which time, the behavior changed completely. The animals pressed the lever like their lives depended on it. Over and over, frantically, long after a reliable machine would have made them quit. Skinner had found the most powerful schedule of reward ever discovered. He called it the variable ratio schedule. In plain English, it means this. A reward that comes at random intervals is far more addictive than a reward that comes every time. A later researcher, Michael Zeiler, sharpened the point even further. He found that reward given only 50 to 70% of the time produced more relentless behavior than reward given 100% of the time. The gaps didn't weaken the drive. The gaps were the drive. Certainty kills the search. Uncertainty feeds it forever. Now hold that thought and look down at your phone. Every time you pull to refresh, you are pulling a lever. Sometimes there's a new message. Sometimes there's a photo that stops you cold. Sometimes there's a joke that makes you laugh out loud in a silent room. And sometimes, most times, there's nothing at all. You never know which pull will pay off. That is not an accident. That is the most addictive design in the history of behavior, and it's sitting in your pocket. There's a woman who spent years studying the machines built to exploit this exact wiring. Her name is Natasha Dow-Schul, an anthropologist who embedded herself in Las Vegas to understand slot machine design. In her work, she describes what players call the machine zone, a trance where time dissolves and the outside,